They want us to spend money, so they're going to keep interest rates real low. But anytime you got the rate of return on your money below the rate of inflation, you are destroying savings. Now, if the spread's really wide, i.e. the inflation's really high and interest is really low, you destroy the savings really fast. If the spread's not too much, you still destroy it, but it takes a lot longer. In my podcast notes, I talked about, back in 1982, you could get 12% on money in a CD. Well, that was a 3-year CD. After 3 years, that meant you got $1.51 back, $1.51 for every dollar you put in. The miracle of compounding money. But today, at the interest rates as low as they are, you're going to be lucky to get $1.04, $1.05 back. And now, maybe the 12% was a bit excessive. Yes, I'll agree. Maybe it was a bit excessive. But I can't tell you the number of people that I know had saved and scrimped and worked hard their whole life trying to put money away, and they were expecting to earn 5%. They the old passbook savings. Remember, you put the money in the passbook savings, and it's kind of guaranteed a 5% return on your money. And I can't remember the guys. One of the big hedge funds guys that I was listening to this last week, a guy who made a bunch of money. He was actually on somebody's TV show, and he's talking about maybe we ought to just make the banks go back to be basically utilities. Back to where, they did nothing but loan money. You deposited money and they loaned money, and that was it. Maybe that's what we need to go back to with the banks and get them out of the gambling that they're doing. But oh well. And you know what? You can't get any money on your money in the bank. No wonder farmland's at record prices. Where else are you going to put your money? You can't get any kind of return on your money, so why not put it in farmland? I know. A lot of people say, wow, it's crazy to have it in farmland. But, I know people, 2 or 3% return on farmland, plus the fact that you can actually have it. Look what's going on in Greece right now. Of course, Greece, Cyprus. Well, I get Greece and Cyprus, island nation in the eastern Mediterranean. Okay. But, hey, what's happening in Cyprus may happen in Greece before it's over. But, they announced Friday that, we're just going to take 10% of all your money in the bank. Now, if you got under 100,000 euros, we're only going to take $6,750 of that, 6.75%. But if you got over 100,000, we're going to take 9.99%, i.e. 10% of your money. So if you thought you had €1 million in the bank, you now only have 900,000. Now, is that maybe the German taxpayers, i.e. voters, not wanting to prop up all these Russians that put money in Cyprus? Possibly. But yet, they've crossed the line. And where I talked just a little bit ago, I kind of hit it that, don't think because you got your money in farmland that's safe. There's people out there proposing a one-time, and of course we all know it'll really be one-time, wealth tax, where they just come along and say, hey, your property's worth, $1 million, you owe us 100,000. I mean, I don't want to scare anybody out here, but that's a line they crossed in Europe, where they're going to confiscate when you start confiscating bank deposits, that's full-blown socialism. That's kind of crazy stuff that Stalin did. He just came and took your money away from you. So I guess one of the questions I got to ask the world political elites, are you really going to tax the wealth of everybody just to keep the governments around the world going? Are you going to take bank deposits from people? That's a breach of fundamental property rights there. We just going to take your money. And I know they've done it before, and, it's happened. But, forget about Cyprus. What about, like I mentioned before, Italy, Portugal, Spain, Greece? Is the money safe in those banks? If it gets bad, the European Union going to come along, the Germans and the IMF, and take some of that money? And what happens now if this thing blows up in Cyprus and the politicians in Cyprus say, hey, we ain't going for it, we ain't doing it, we ain't taking the money from our people?